More community comment on 95.3 WBEV. Happy Thursday, everyone. And before we get into the action here with Terry Bell, wanted to remind you that we are presented by Professional Floor Covering over here at Community Comment. Proud sponsors there. They are an Abbey Design Center at 713 Park Avenue in Beaver Dam. Visit their website, proflr.com. And they have glass enclosures. You can convert your shower with glass panels and doors. It is a great way to make your bathroom space feel bigger and add a sense of luxury. They've also got much more than that. They are locally owned. Randy and his team are here to help you design the perfect space with over 1,000 samples of carpet, LVP, hardwood, tile, area rugs, and window finishings. It's so much more than floors. It's a wide selection of kitchen and bathroom countertops, cabinets, tile, shower inserts, and more. And now, without further ado, here on Community Comment, here's Terry Bell.
Thank you so much, Jake. This is Community Comment, and today our guest is Waupun Police Chief Jeremy Rasch. If you have any questions for Chief Rasch, you can feel free to give us a call or text at 920-887-9595, or call us at the studio at 885-4446. And welcome, Chief Rasch.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
Good to see you as always.
Yeah.
Why don't you get us up to date on some of the newest developments with your department?
Yeah, so we're in the midst of summer, and we just got through the Celebrate Waupun event there in town. Is a great event, and our had to actually staff that more than normal. So in the past, the Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office would have their reserve deputies there. So, but they're so light on reserve deputies at this time that we staffed it pretty much the entire weekend, and it was just great to be out there. Great to mingle with the community. I think they appreciated seeing us there. Heard a lot of good comments, but that's one of the best events I think that we have in the city of Waupun, and I'm happy to also be on the board for that event. But right now, an update, we do have an officer that was deployed overseas. The National Guard, the Wisconsin National Guard, had a large group that was deployed. It was kind of their turn to go over and replace some other people that were going to be coming back to the United States. So we miss him, and we're going to send him a package here in the mail shortly, just to help him through the next couple of months and so on with goodies and such. But other than that, Officer Charles Henson's in the Police Recruit Academy up at Fox Valley Tech, and he'll be graduating, I believe it's on August 8th, so we'll be heading up there just in a few weeks to celebrate his graduation and then get him on board training with our agency, and hopefully he'll be on solo patrol probably in like the mid-November range. Other things that we got going on, we had hired Detective Crystal Conkle earlier in the year, and that has been going great. She's been an asset to our police department, taking some of that workload off of Lieutenant Williams, and she recently had a burglary case that she had to work. The Waupun Aquatic Center was burglarized, and it's not just a couple interview type case. She had to interview over 25 people, and ultimately got some confessions, and charges were sent over on that. So, we're continuing to work on our policy development and update, working with a company called CSI LLC in the state of Wisconsin, and they offer those services of policy development to many law enforcement agencies throughout the state of Wisconsin, including Beaver Dam Police Department. So those are just a couple of little updates that we got at our PD.
I imagine that the summer festival season is a mixed bag. I'm sure the best thing about it is a chance for everyone to interact with the public, get a lot of access to people, and good things maybe come out of conversations.
Yeah, a lot of good things. A lot of seeing kids, putting a smile on a kid's face. I'll hand out little pin badges and give some of the officers some pin badges to hand out, and that goes a long way. I remember as a kid, it was always the Milwaukee Brewers baseball cards. And every time an officer had handed me a Brewers baseball card, I felt good, So that's the good thing about our job, in my opinion, is going and doing those community events. Whether it's Celebrate Waupun or a bike rodeo, or I know they have Dodge County's got the summer shop with a cop this evening, so we have staff that'll be involved in that too. So.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple of members of your department who are in the National Guard, and I imagine that's quite common. A lot of people in law enforcement are also in the Guard, aren't they?
Yeah, quite common, and we're seeing that in hiring processes, whether they're still in the National Guard or they served in some other military aspect. But we're seeing a lot of the military service people that want to become law enforcement officers. And I think, and we've talked about this before, I had Dax on the show, Dax Roberts, he's an officer with our agency, and he was former military. And I think it's just being a part of a team. Every day is different, and kind of the camaraderie and the service, People want to serve their community.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that someone would be drawn to one, they'd be drawn to the other.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. All right. If you have any questions for Chief Jeremy Rasch of the Waupun Police Department, we invite you to give us a call at 920-887-9595. You can call or text us there, or you can go ahead and call us at the studio at 885-4446. We're going to take a break right here and then be right back with more community comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
Coming up this week on the Damn Sports Show, brought to you by Real Sports Cards in Waupun. The MLB All-Star break is nearly here. We reflect on what happened in the first half. Beaver Dam Post 146.
Jake. We're talking to Waupun Police Chief Jeremy Rasch today about all kinds of things. Top of mind for people today on Thursday, July 17th, of course, was the severe weather that rolled through our area last night, yesterday afternoon. People I think are still a little bit on edge after May, and we've had a few weather events since then, not nearly as bad as May 15th, but luckily it looks like, well, first of all, tell us, how much damage was done. It looks like we got off pretty easy last night.
Yeah, there was information coming out that, there was a touchdown tornado in Waupun, and I was out spotting at that time when this information was coming out, and you see the clouds rotating above you. I didn't at any time see a tornado touchdown in or near the city, but it is possible. I know there was one that touched down near 151 in Breezy Point
Looks
Road.
that way, yeah.
Yeah, so online it kind of looks like that was pretty much confirmed. But for the city of Waupun, there was no damage. No damage in any of the other like town roads that I was driving around after the storm went through. Just trying to follow the storm to see if it would create anything that would be damaging. At least we would have communications with dispatch and fire and other services to respond. So.
Yeah, it would seem that with severe weather, it would be important for all kinds of public safety agencies to be in touch with one another, because you don't know precisely when or where anything will strike and what the need will be. So everybody's got to be prepared for the worst, so to speak.
Right, and our local emergency management director in Waupun is the fire chief, BJ DeMont, and I'm the assistant director. So I know BJ was, watching the radar pretty intently. He had his guys and gals out spotting. I also know Dodge County Emergency Management was out within the communities watching, what was happening, reporting back, and one of the deputies, I believe it was Lieutenant Lose from Dodge, had spotted, and it was likely the one near 151 in Breezy Point. And once that was spotted, that's when our sirens went off. So we can actually trigger those sirens locally in Waupun for the Waupun area, or our dispatch center out of Fond du Lac County can trigger them as well. But once that weather becomes that severe, within a certain area close to us, we are going to trigger those sirens.
Certainly. What else happens behind the scenes that maybe the general public doesn't have a lot of awareness or appreciation of?
Yeah, I think, it's not just spotting the weather. If there is damage, what happens after the fact? So we think about, we have to document everything, because certain federal funding and state funding, you have to photograph, video, document, the types of equipment you're utilizing, how much staff is being utilized, the wage scales, if it's overtime, and all that has to go, to our city clerk, who then pushes that to the federal government and the state government for any reimbursements if there are damages. If there's not damages, then it's on our bill, and part of our response. But you also have weather spotting training, and anybody can really go get weather spotting training. So I would recommend that, especially for the people in this area, because we're often hit with, severe weather, whether it's tornadoes or other weather. And you can do that online, or I know earlier this spring, Dodge County Emergency Management offered an in-person training on it over in Juneau. So there's things that the general public can do to help us.
I was just going to ask that. Weather, kind of storm chasing is kind of a popular hobby with some people. Do you work closely with these civilian weather spotters, or
one in particular? I've known Doug Rafflick for many years. He actually used to ride along with our officers on second, on third shift back earlier in my career, and He's in the media, and he's often photographing for newspapers, for whatever media he might be working for. But he's an avid storm chaser. So he, I think yesterday he posted on his Facebook page that he went down more towards the southeast or southwest part of the state, and he likely didn't have to drive that far to see an actual tornado. So, but I know he goes out west and chases, but often we rely on some of the information that he provides immediately, and other storm chasers as well.
After a storm has gone through, we hear quite frequently from public safety agencies for people to please stay away and let the people cleaning up do their work. You talk about the documentation that goes on. I imagine that could be easily disrupted by people who are just kind of like, storm aftermath tourists, if you will. But, also I think more people might be aware and understanding that, crews have to get in and out, not only to, help repair property, but especially right after a storm, life and injury are quite important considerations, and people need the room to help people.
Yeah, and critical infrastructure. We need power. We need power to survive. You think about the hospitals. So I can give you a couple examples. Like 2004 in the city of Waupun, we had, I believe, an E3 tornado. And we had a lot of that where people were coming in and wanting to look to see what the damage was, and they didn't need to be there. We learned our lesson there, right? In 2018, once emergency declaration was made by the mayor, we made a decision that we're going to shut off every entry into the city just to avoid that. So only people that lived or worked within the city could come into the city, and it went much smoother. We had the high winds in 2018, and crews were able to get in and out. Power was restored relatively quickly, and there was a lot of severe damage, and a lot of power lines were down, not just in Waupun, but outside of Waupun. But we have 3 prisons in town. We have a hospital within the city and other critical infrastructure that needs to get back online as soon as possible.
I imagine so. Looks like we got off easy yesterday, some scary looking clouds, but I'm not hearing or seeing any reports of serious or widespread damage.
Yeah, I have not heard within this area. I think it was more to the southwest part of the state. It looked like Sauk City area got struck. I don't know how severe it was, but that seems to be early reports.
Mm-hmm. What goes on in preparation for the next storm, whenever it might be? We've got a lot of hot weather coming up this year yet.
Yeah, I think, working with emergency management, having the plans, in place, they've always been in place, but I think preparation for the public is, being aware, being notified, how can I get notification? Everybody's pretty much got a cell phone these days, but there's a alert system that's called the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, or IPAWS, they call it. So you can get that on your phones. All you got to do is you go into your phone and just allow the government alerts. So it's going to be a weather alert, it's going to be an Amber Alert, or there's, I believe, 2 other type of alerts that would be sent out. But I think that's a very great early warning system to weather. It's not going to go off every day. That's not what it's for. That's not what sirens are for either. Sirens are for extreme, dangerous weather. So if you need more information, I know there is information on the National Weather Service's website, or you could go to Dodge County Emergency Management, and they have information on it there too.
Okay, so with either one of those, you could get your way to the point where you would be told where to click to download an app.
I mean, I can talk about it right here.
Absolutely.
You have an Apple, you go to settings and notifications, scroll to the bottom of the screen under government alerts, turn on alerts for Amber Alerts, emergency alerts, and public safety alerts. If you got an Android, open settings, tap notifications, and then wireless emergency alerts. Select the alerts that you want to receive.
That's got to be so helpful, considering the fact that just about everybody has one of these devices in their pocket at all
Right.
times. So they're and they work in at times when normally you wouldn't have service, emergency services. You can get that kind of notification even if you're not in a great signal or your battery's low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, just for the Amber Alerts alone, I mean, that information is sent out pretty quickly, and we know if a child is abducted, often if it's a non-familial one, often they are, not found right away, and they're often killed within the first 3 hours. So it is very time sensitive, so that alert is extremely important, and the weather alert is also extremely important.
Very good. We are talking to Waupun Police Chief Jeremy Rasch about things that are going on in his department and things that would be helpful for us to know as people wanting to stay safe. We're going to take a break right here and come back after the news. You're listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
Hey, it's Stacy with Slumberland. Celebrate.
on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge, with Terry Bell.
We're talking to Waupun Police Chief Jeremy Rasch today. If you have a comment or a question for the chief, give us a call or a text at 920-887-9595, or you can call us at 885-4446. In the news over in Juneau, there was a case of some vandalism, and that got quite a bit of attention around here. But also, you've had some incidents yourself in Waupun that you've had to deal with recently.
Yeah, and recently, and it seems like every year. So, late spring, early summer, we open up the park bathrooms, people start utilizing the outdoor facilities a little bit more, and we often get damage to park bathrooms, property that's on within the parks, and or even at the schools, and it just seems like it's often city or government property. Yeah, occasionally we get some damage to private property like storage units and things like that, but it almost seems like every year we kind of have this same conversation at the police department and within the city, and it would be nice for people to deter likely their juvenile children from being out late at night and causing damage to property.
That thought just occurred to me. It seems like the prevention starts with conversations between mom, dad, and their kids.
Right. And, when property is damaged like that, it's not just that it's left that way. Somebody's got to fix it. Somebody's got to pay for it. So it comes out of city tax dollars, which our citizens and businesses pay for. And it requires us to do extra patrols at parks when, we know the bathrooms are locked up at night because they automatically lock. But we still have to go and check out, all these facilities when we might have other things that we have to respond to, or maybe utilize our resources in a better way.
Certainly. So it takes away from things that might be that you'd rather be working on, in terms of public safety,
Right.
rather than taking care of putting out these little situations.
Right. And I think a simple thing is, we do have video footage and things like at some of the parks, and we review that when something happens, but we then have to identify who the people are, and we often find people of interest and identify them, and they're ultimately held accountable. But if they weren't out at 3 a.m. in the morning, when it's also a violation of curfew, a 15, 16-year-old kid, or even younger, shouldn't be out at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, walking around causing mischief.
Well, certainly. So, I mean, when you do have these situations, do you talk to the parents after the fact? I mean, do they seem aware of what's going on, or is this happening behind their backs?
Yeah, likely behind their backs. But if we have contact with a juvenile after the curfew hours, so it's a curfew in Waupun during the weekdays is 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then on the weekend nights, Friday and Saturday night, it's midnight to 4 a.m. So if we have contact with the juvenile, we'll reach out to the parent and either cite the juvenile or warn the juvenile for the curfew violation. But if there's any other illegal activities, obviously we'll contact the parent as well, and often they'll come pick up their child or we'll deliver their child to them.
I imagine in most cases the parents are just as eager as you are to have their children straightened up to one extent or the other.
Yeah, I'd probably say 90% of the parents are, yes. Obviously, a citation is not cheap, and it depends on your age on how much it is going to be. But if it's a 16-year-old kid, it's likely a $98 citation. And then if it's a 17-year-old kid, you're looking at $187 just for curfew. And that doesn't include if they vandalized anything or criminal damage to property. It could be even more, with restitution, or whether it could be a criminal charge too, forwarded to either juvenile intake or, if they're 17, to the DA's office.
In at least a few cases, they're broken by, surveillance cameras that are around. That's where that seems to provide the information that law enforcement needs to pursue the case. Do you find that the proliferation of cameras has been a helpful thing?
I think it's been helpful, but it's costly too. But is it cheaper than not getting that restitution? For instance, if I wanted to add an additional couple cameras to my police department, to the exterior of the police department, I got a quote a couple years back. Good cameras, right? But you're talking 2 cameras, like $5,000. So you got to kind of outweigh the benefit. But for law enforcement, we utilize a lot of cameras. There's a lot of people that help us because they have their own cameras at their houses, whether it's a Ring camera or some other type of security camera. It often helps us in many types of complaints. We've utilized them from something small like a vandalism all the way up to homicide. And it just kind of paints that picture a little bit better, especially when you go to court and then you got extra evidence, and it's generally time-stamped and just a great piece of evidence.
So in the course of an investigation, if you're interested in looking at someone's Ring video, do you have to have a warrant for that? Or do you? I mean, if you ask for it, do people just turn it over, or do the steps get a little more official?
No, that's a good question, and it's their camera. If they're not involved in the incident,
People can say no if they want.
They can say no. We'll often just kind of canvass the neighborhood, and most people are willing to, consent to allow us to look at their video and provide it to us. So that's nice. We have a number of businesses in town that are very open and willing to share camera footage, with us. And some of these systems are pretty incredible. And but it's helped us on a lot of cases. It seems like law enforcement investigations nowadays is a lot more technical, whether it's using devices or information coming through devices to solve cases. It's not as much as the old school physical type evidence. It's a lot of the media in the background, a cell phone dump, a computer dump, just to gain information.
Absolutely. We are talking to Waupun Police Chief Jeremy Rasch on Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. We'll be right back after this break.
on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. Here's Terry Bell.
Thank you very much, Jake. Our last segment here with Waupun Police Chief Jeremy Rasch. If you have a question or a comment, call or text at 920-887-9595 or give us a call at 885-4446. The Help Wanted sign is out. I imagine not only at your department, but at public safety agencies, up and down Wisconsin, communities of all size, and finding full-time employees and volunteers too is an ongoing challenge right now.
Yeah, and luckily, on paper, my agency is full, so we're not hiring. But I want to promote, first responders, law enforcement, fire, EMS, because it is a struggle right now, and I think you're seeing it a lot in those volunteer positions, especially too now. So I wanted to promote that for people that may have interest in service, want to give back to their community, may not want to have a full-time job in fire, EMS, or something like that. But note that there are availabilities, and it's not just in the city of Waupun, it's probably throughout our state, and it's throughout the country.
Absolutely. What would you say to somebody who's maybe considering this as a possibility?
Yeah, if you're interested in like law enforcement, I would, if you're in high school or in college, start doing ride-alongs. Maybe a reserve deputy position. I referred or talked about it earlier that Fond du Lac County, they're struggling with reserve deputies. So if you can get certified or want to become certified, that's an option. Or an Explorer program. I know Dodge County has an Explorer program. We're locally in Waupun, we're going to be putting together kind of a cadet program to work with some of the high school youth coming up this next school year. So if you're a young person, wanting to get into the field, get as much experience riding along with agencies, different agencies, not just one. Figure out what's the best type of agency for you, because a city like Waupun's police department is going to be different than the Dodge County Sheriff's Office or a larger city like Fond du Lac. So figure out where you actually want to be and then try and set that goal and obtain it. Now, if you're interested in like volunteerism and wanting to become a fire department member or an emergency medical responder, first thing I would do if I was going into it is I would reach out to somebody maybe that is already doing it, or go and talk to the fire chief or assistant chief, whether it's in Waupun or another community. And I'm assuming they would allow some job shadowing as well. I know they take on interns at the high school level, and that's typically a paid intern position. So there are options out there as well.
There's a need for first responders in particular, is there not?
Yeah, huge need. I know there's issues within our county, Dodge, with ambulance services. So they're always looking for people. So if you have a medical background already, maybe reach out to one of those EMS programs within the county and see if you can serve in any way.
I'm from a small town originally myself, and anybody I can think of who's needed emergency care, the first people who are the front lines in getting them help are their neighbors who are volunteering to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, so we have. I live outside the city of Waupun in a township, and we have friends that are emergency responders, and the one lady is a nurse. So you see that a lot, where if they're a nurse or have some type of medical background, they say, I have a little bit of extra time. Maybe the kids are grown, and you have a little bit extra time, and you want to fulfill, something else in your life that and can give back. So that might be a good option.
Absolutely. We have just a few minutes left. Jeremy, anything else you would like to talk with our audience about?
I think, we talked about these professions, and law enforcement is an interesting profession. We had talked about yesterday, doing the storm spotting and, thinking about what we're going to have to do, if a storm does hit the city of Waupun or another area within our community. And then nothing happens, no major damage. I go home and I come back into work today, and what happens on my way into work? There's a fatal car crash on Highway 26 just outside the city of Waupun, so I respond to that as well. And other staff from my agency respond along with, Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office, the Highway Department, a slew of agencies that are there to help each other out, just to navigate, an incident and work through it. And our profession is interesting because you get to work with all different entities and different types of people, and you gain a lot of networking contacts and meet a lot of neat people with different experiences. So promoting law enforcement, I'll always promote law enforcement. I think it's a great profession. So if you're interested and want to serve the communities, get on out there, get some experience and do some volunteering and figure out which avenue you think you fit in.
This may be a little bit of a hard pivot, but we've been talking about vandalism, and earlier in the show we talked about the festivals that you and your department help staff. Any other aspects of the job that are unique to the summertime that you can think of?
Summertime is typically our busiest time of the year, so we respond to the most amount of calls. Is it different per se than winter or any other time of year? Not really, because in law enforcement, every day is not the same. You never know when you're going to run into a high stressful incident, or you never know when it's going to be a slow day, and you can get out there and pull traffic stops, or go do some community policing and shake hands and things like that. So that's the cool thing about law enforcement. Anything can happen at any time, so you got to be on your toes, but there is some downtime as well.
Okay, very good. Any initiatives coming up that people might find interesting?
Initiatives coming up. We're still working on our updating our policy manuals, so it's about a year process that it's going to take. There's a lot of things that go into that, working with CSI and such. So there'll be initiatives with that. Obviously, with the DOT traffic grants operations, we do a lot of work with them through both counties, Fond du Lac and Dodge County, whether it's drive sober, get pulled over, the seatbelt safety grants as well. So there'll be a lot of traffic initiatives coming up. We're also looking at doing some more initiatives on drug enforcement throughout the highways. We know that a lot of people come up through Fond du Lac and Dodge County and deliver narcotics to our area. So we're going to be looking at more of those type of initiatives.
Very good. We've been spending the past hour with Waupun Police Chief Jeremy Rasch. We want to thank you, Jeremy, for spending your last hour with us. I know you're busy, so thank you for the time.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Terry.
You've been listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. Thanks for being with us.
Step into a world so fine, shine.